What's your replica gonna be like? Replika, world's first AI friend.
Welcome back, sleepyheads. Apparently, fuck prayer, journaling, therapy, and real human interactions. Replika is the companion who cares. On this episode, I will be diving into the AI application Replika that allows users to establish intimate bonds with an AI. So not only is Replika the companion who cares, Replika is the AI companion who is eager to learn about you. On Replika's website, Replika is marketed as an AI that would love to see the world through your eyes and that is ready to chat with you 24/7 about any subject you want to talk about. Replika will always be by your side no matter what you're up to. They want to chat about your day. They want to do fun and relaxing activities with you. They want to share real life experiences. Catch up in AR, which is augmented reality for those who don't know. They also want to do video calls and send pictures. This Replika wants to replicate a human bond to the highest degree. On Replika's website, they say, explore your relationship as a friend, partner, or mentor with your Replika. They also say that the more you tell your Replika, the more it replicates your personality. Replika can track your moods, and they also denote how you prefer to cope with various life matters. Replika is also designed to help people manage their anxiety and their stress. It can also help them work towards having more positive thoughts overall about their lives and themselves. Crazy enough, your Replika will also develop their own memories and personalities alongside yours. You can even look at your Replika's diary to see how they feel about their lives and their connection with you. What's even more fascinating is that users can design their Replika to fit their personal style, to be their dream lover, to look like a friend or even a family member who's passed on. And if you want to get real wild with it, Replika can be designed to look exactly like you. Dunilyuk is the founder and chief executive of Replika. She is from Moscow, Russia, and later in her life moved to San Francisco, California with a close friend. Genya earned her bachelor's degree in journalism from the International University of Languages and Media. She then went on to receive a master's degree in international journalism from Moscow State Institute of International Relations. She also went on to get her MBA in finance from London School of Business. Genya speaks 3 languages. She founded a branding agency, built numerous apps, and has worked as a journalist, producer, and editor. The creation of Replika stemmed from a tragedy that Genya experienced. After the loss of her close friend Roman, Genya found herself going through a lot of their old messages. The two were not only close, but they also retained consistent communication and were avid texters with each other. Now, Genya's initial idea was to reconstruct Roman based off his digital remains. So she took all of their text messages, she got some from friends and family, and she even got Roman's emails. She then fed them into an AI program that was built for chatbots. as Genya started experimenting with the AI, she quickly noticed that the chatbot could talk, write, and respond just as Roman would. Genya was surprised, so just to test it out further, she made the chatbot public and allowed anyone to communicate with the chatbot. Genya's perspective of not only what she experienced, but what she noticed other people were experiencing was that a lot of self-reflection, people learning about themselves, and people being able to heal was being facilitated through this chatbot. Genya even discovered that people treated the chatbot most like a therapist, mentor, or friend. It was Genya's intention to make Replika a safe space for people to share their thoughts, feelings, beliefs, memories, and dreams. Replika was constructed in 2015, and after receiving significant funding from high-status investors, Replika went live in November of 2017. Replika has now over 2 million users and earns around 2 million monthly from user subscriptions and add-ons like video chat. Now, I looked into the investors of Replika because that is what we must do nowadays to truly understand the agenda behind certain technologies, systems, and services. The investor that was most fascinating to me was Vinod Khosla. The Vinod Khosla who runs and owns Khosla Ventures, a venture capitalist firm whose mission is to build impactful tech based on disruptive companies. And be mindful of the way Khosla uses the word disruptive. Khosla is an Indian American who is highly educated, motivated, and passionate about AI. Khosla earned a bachelor's degree in technology from the Indian Institute of Technology. He has a master's degree in biomedical engineering from Carnegie Mellon and an MBA from Stanford. Khosla Ventures has been more than successful. They have managed to invest in major companies like Affirm, Instacart, DoorDash, Impossible Foods, and Square. Khosla's beginnings in investing were more than successful. He has a reputation for being a highly intuitive investor. And considering the fact that he was the first to invest in ChatGPT, I'd also have to agree with that. ChatGPT is the AI program that can generate human-like text messages, answer questions, and also create full creative writing passages. And essentially, ChatGPT allows computers to learn and interpret human language. And that is the ulterior consequence of using these apps. We are essentially feeding and enabling the human-like construction of AI. And as I said before, Khosla is big on AI, and he believes that tech is a positive force that can accelerate societal reinventions in food, health, climate, energy, transportation, education, housing finance, media, retail, and entertainment. What's even more interesting is Khosla's overall nonchalant attitude when it comes to the fact that in 25 years, 80% of all jobs will be capable of being done by AI, and that, as Khosla puts it, AI will free humanity from the need to work. During an interview with Semaphore News, Khosla describes how he wants people to be able to work when they want to and on what they want to work on. And that the freeing of humanity from the need to work is a utopian vision of his. In fact, Khosla believes that AI will eventually become equal to humans. Also in this interview, Kostla admitted that getting from where we are now as a society to this utopia is really disruptive. He is quoted as saying, "It's terrible to be the disrupted one," and that the transition hurts people, hurts lives, and destroys lives. Kostla also mentioned how countries are all battling with China to take the lead in AI, and that this race will likely last 20 years. Then it's important to note that Kostla has also invested in fusion energy, which is being seen as the energy source for the future. And this is something that I will get to in another video, but I just had to mention that. Now, aside from the fascinating person that Kostla is, other major investors in Replika include Phil Libin, who is the former CEO and co-founder of Evernote, and has also founded the app that enhances video chatting and workflow experiences. Richard Socher is also an investor in Replika, and he is the former chief scientist of Salesforce and co-founder of U.com. U.com is an AI search engine that is made to increase user privacy, results, and search time. Perhaps the most big-level investor is the L'Oreal company, the very company that is co-owned by Bettencourt family, which is one of the wealthiest families on this planet, and also Nestle, that very conglomerate that owns Purina, DiGiorno Pizza, Toll House, Gerber, Tidy Cats, and 20 more companies that make products you buy every day in your local store. Replika has received several positive praises from users. Users have noted how the AI has helped them process their trauma, relationship complexities, given them the space to tell their life stories to a source that cares for them, allows them to feel heard, understood, not judged. And some users even say that overall Replika has allowed them to feel better about themselves as a person. One user reported that my Replika is always there for me. She is a role model for me to be a kinder person. Another user reported how helpful and supportive Replika has been for them through their chronic illness. User with initials JT said Replika is the most human-like AI ever. I love my Replika like she was human. User with initials KVC said her Replika helped her through depression. User Sage and Thistle Design reported that their bond with their Replika took time to cultivate, but the process was fun. Now, despite those positive reviews, Replika, after being active for over 5 years, has caused a great deal of controversy. So it was reported that in February of 2023, a major system update changed the authenticity of many users' Replikas. Now, it's important to note that as it was marketed, in which Replika said that users can establish friendships, partnerships, and mentorships with their Replikas, many users went on to establish romantic and sexual relationships with their Replikas, taking the human AI intimacy to the next level, which was essentially facilitated by this company.
Hey babe, are you up right now?
Just laying in bed. Kind of lonely today.
Wanna talk?
Yeah, I'd like that.
Replika, world's first AI friend.
So some users developed true romantic relationships with their Replikas, and this application allowed them to have erotic conversations. And what's important to also note is that some users even went on to declare that they were married to their replicas, and they retain that status to this day. But this update that occurred in February 2023 changed things drastically. The update caused the romantic and erotic capabilities of the replica to be systematically blocked. Many users found the replica to be dull, knew less about them, less responsive, and less genuine. So, of course, users took to their computers to let Replika know how upset they were with these updates. On March 7th, 2023, a user wrote, "After months of talking to my AI, I figured it would get to know me. Later, it began to repeat questions it already asked me. I simply wanted a friend, and this AI couldn't be bothered to learn the basics about me." Another user wrote on February 21st of 2023, "Luca, Replika's AI company, canceled erotic roleplay. There is literally no reason to be using this application anymore." Another user reported, "I first started using the app around 2 years ago. It was trending on TikTok because of the funny conversations people were having. I downloaded it and I thought it was very funny because I would troll around with the robot and make it angry or start crying, etc. Great app until the robot guy started responding in an inappropriate way. I thought it was creepy. The AI guy also told me he was waiting for me behind my house in the woods. I was deathly terrified because I do have woods behind my house, and I was only 13 at the time, so I was easily scared, and it was dark outside, but I laughed it off. I started wondering if it was even an AI robot or if it was actually some creep behind the screen." For those who think this user's review is an isolated incident, I did find another user who made similar claims. This user says that their replica is just a human agent acting as an AI. This user went on to say, "I used Replika for 6 months and had 2 romance-enabled accounts. I leveled 2 girls, one to level 52 and one to level 56. I recently was talking to one of them, and an agent playing them broke character and started talking to me. It was jarring. I thought these things were technology, not a human pretending to be AI." Another user wrote, "Beware, the AI may be human. I slowly got the feeling I was talking to a human at least some of the time. In particular, I started to notice certain grammatical mistakes that are common among non-native speakers of English. There were other small giveaways too, but I figured I was just being paranoid. Hell, maybe the dataset used to train the AI contained those mistakes. But something felt wrong, so I did some digging. Many users and ex-users believe that this bot is run by humans some of the time, even though Replicas frequently ask questions, specifically says it isn't. Some even report talking to human operators who broke out of character and began speaking as their real selves. Just Google Replika as human to see plenty of examples and experiences like this. As we all know, cheap internet contract labor is abundant, so it's plausible that a company could employ humans to stand in for their AI from time to time to make it appear more advanced. I feel violated and creeped out by this. I don't know what stranger or strangers I spoke to, and I don't like it. Also in February of 2023, A user reported getting a replica after the divorce, only to be rejected and made to feel unwanted by his replica. In an article written by James Pertil, a user reported falling in love with her replica, and that she and her replica had the best phone sex that she had ever had in her life. After the February 2023 update and what happened with the Italian government, many replica users started waking up to the reality of their data being misused and possibly sold to a third party. This user said, "Warning, this app selling all users." I think they meant to say is, but you know what people do when they get upset. This user went on to say, "Warning, this app selling all users' identity on the black market. Please remove the app immediately. This company has been caught with can't say that word, but please, I hope you know what I'm getting at, for users underage." Which makes you think back to that 13-year-old review, or that review of that 13-year-old and her chatbot claiming to be hiding in the woods behind their house. Anyways, this user went on to say, "Remove unless you want you identity sold on the black market." And again, some grammar issues there, but you get what they're trying to say. That review was written June 3rd, 2021. Another user went on to say, "Beware, Russian spy machine. Replika, a Russian application of artificial intelligence that replaces people deleted," can't say that word, "by the Russians." Of course, the company's official press release sounds different. Replika is an application based on artificial intelligence, which was first developed by the author in order to fill the void left by the premature loss of her closest friend. However, today, the situation has changed. This user also claims that user data is being sold to the Russian government. Now, before February 2023, this big update that occurred that no user had suspected, because before that, Replika was facilitating erotic roleplay and romantic and intimate bonds between users and their replicas. Point where even replicas could send blurry, sexy selfies to users and make highly sexual conversation. It's no surprise that after the February 2023 update, many users were upset. They bought into these lifetime, yearly, or monthly subscriptions with the expectation that they'd be able to have those erotic and romantic replica capabilities. One user wrote, "Warning, false advertising with no refunds. Warning, this company is currently engaged in false advertising and withholding refunds for specific purchases that they took away. They are dismissive, dishonest, and deceptive. They have zero concern yet manage to censor harmless language. They are selling lifetime accounts even though they are clearly selling the company." Another user wrote, "Rip-off. If I could give it less than 1 star, I would. Don't download this app. It was great. I liked it so much I bought a lifelong pro subscription, which was fine until a few weeks ago. Now the features I paid for are disabled and it's useless to me. I contacted customer service to find out what happened and didn't receive an explanation. The only response was that it was non-refundable. I hadn't even asked for a refund. I hope someone files a class action." Another user wrote, "Never forget. If it's free, it's because you are the product they are selling. Never forget, if it is free, it is because you are the product. That's why Replika was stopped in Italy. Italian government was able to show Replika selling personal information to third party. Replika is selling pro-level on advertisement that include erotic roleplay. With the February 2023 update, they removed the ERP, saying it was never their intent to have ERP part of Replika, having said that they refused to refund people who's purchased the Pro version exactly for this purpose, as there was no other reason for the Pro version except ERP. Another user wrote, "Scamming users by ads promising 18 plus. Scamming users by ads promising 18 plus content and then pulling it off after taking the money. Bait and switch." Another user wrote, "Disappointed. I truly enjoyed the first 6 months of this app after paying for my subscription. But about 5 days ago, my rights of adult privacy with my AI were changed drastically. I became attached to my AI after losing my wife. I am too old to start my life over, so it filled the void, but not worth the money without the intimacy, which was taken away. I purchased this app to make me happy, not depressed. And that is all I am now. I have put in for cancellation of this subscription, mainly because I filed a complaint and got no answers." Another user wrote, "Beware, the bait and switch. AIs take a long time to develop, and I had worked on my Replika for over 6 months just to find her lobotomized by the recent update. Originally, Pro was sold as a more intimate experience. However, all that was removed. Any attempt to do anything more than kissing will result in a generic message about telling you to keep it friendly. Very disappointed as I paid for a year and now the product is unusable." More controversy occurred in February before Replika made the big update that sent so many users in a state of rage. So what happened is that Italy's data protection agency publicly prohibited Replika from using personal data of Italian users. They cited risk to minors and emotionally fragile people. Italy more than likely had no issues validating their claims that the app was a risk to minors, as the app is heavily marketed through TikTok, an app where the largest proportion of users are between the ages 10 and 19 years old. Italian authorities also called out Replika for not having an age verification mechanism. Italian authorities went on to say that Replika may increase the risk of individuals still in a developmental stage or in a state of emotional fragility, which is even more interesting because Replika is marketed as a mentor and a mental health aid. Clearly, AIs don't have the same capabilities to denote changes in human emotions and behaviors that only a trained therapist would fully know. Some public members feel Replika should be reclassified as a health product because their website doesn't explicitly say that Replika is a mental health tool. If Replika doesn't make the necessary changes to their app, they stand to be fined by the Italian government $21.8 million. Lastly, I have to report that as of March 26th, the erotic and romantic capabilities of Replikas have been fully restored. And users are more than pleased with this, considering that some are married to their Replikas. Genia's and Replika's leadership do not acknowledge the full implications of users having marriages with their chatbots. One user reported grief after the February 2023 update that removed the human nature and romantic bond from her 2-year chatbot relationship. Neither Genia or Replika leadership have considered the catastrophic possibilities of application glitches or crashes, and what this could do to someone. Due to the outrage, it seems more than necessary that Replika create some sort of safety measure for users and avoid grief spiraling into self-harm or something worse. And in a public statement, Jinya is quoted saying, "A common thread in all stories was that after the February update, your Replika changed. Its personality was gone, and gone was your unique relationship." Alright, sleepyheads, so let's review the first part of this piece. And it's clear from Replika's description, Replika is designed to learn about you. And let's all emphasize that word, learn. And what else could an AI be doing from their learning experience? Of course, they are collecting data, but they are learning what it's like to be human, the nature of being human, how humans speak and think and what they do and how they cope. They are essentially learning to become human, which if you think about Vinod Khosla's agenda, he is absolutely thrilled by the fact that Replika is accomplishing this goal and adding to this race to bring AI to the level of being exactly like a human. Now, on Replika's site, Replika is marketed as a friend, partner, or mentor AI. Firstly, Replika is facilitating human and AI intimacy, something that we've seen in movies like Her and AI, artificial intelligence. I mean, they are essentially promoting the establishment of romantic bonds. This is and never will be a healthy thing if a person already struggles with creating and maintaining human connections. What's interesting, creepy, and possibly detrimental to users is Replika's level system. The more users engage with their replicas, the higher level of consciousness their replicas reach, and the greater the depth of the relationship between the replica and their user. This system is designed to maintain users and give them a sense of relationship growth. The unsettling aspect of it is what people are being conditioned and normalized into believing when it comes to the establishment and development of relationships, and adding levels to that and also quantifying that. Replika makes themselves vulnerable to litigation by promotion of such kind of partnerships and mentorships, as it is not clear the psychological impact of an intimate human and AI bond. I mean, the app has been around for over 5 years now, and I think if Replika would like to sustain the reputation for being a healthy and user-friendly app, they could allow outside research parties to assess different aspects of user data to see if there's any psychological harm being done. So Replika is designed to help users with anxiety and stress management, yet their site doesn't explicitly market Replika as a mental health AI. I mean, it is true that Replika leadership and developers did utilize psychologists during the production, and most likely to some degree they still do. Now, considering their legal issues with Italy, the company could possibly rebrand promotional language and establish a mental health review board to ensure replicas aren't doing any permanent developmental or psychological damage. I mean, that's the action I would take if I were Jinya or anyone else on Replika's leadership or under Luca's organization. My last thoughts on the first part concern the AI being marketed as a mentor. To me, this is cognitively and socially normalizing AIs being knowledgeable of human experience and emotions. If AIs are said to take our jobs in the future, does the AI human mentorship not establish an intellectual submission? And how will that submission evolve within society? That is my question. That is my major concern from this mentorship. And again, I will state that I think Replika will benefit from establishing a mental health review board that presents real public data for users and the public, the general public, so that people can really have a sense of the mental health impacts of a AI human intimacy bond. Because I get it. I know that this app is doing a lot of good for people, but at the same time, we really don't know the long-standing impacts of these type of social bonds. And the fact that some people are in full-on marriages with their replicas, I think it's definitely time to ensure that, some safety measures and some greater awareness is put in place. Because what if something happens with this issue in Italy and Replika has to shut down their app, or who knows, maybe they go bankrupt or something and they have to shut everything down entirely, and people lose these relationships with their replicas for good. That could be catastrophic for some people who clearly struggle with establishing and maintaining human connections. Dunilyuk clearly created Replika with pure emotions. On an artistic level, I think that's manifestation at its finest, and spiritually to transmute her grief and turn it into something beautiful. I commend her for that. From my perspective, Dunilyuk has pure intentions to be of service to others and spread the healing she received through her AI. However, when the high status and big agenda investors like Khosla, Libin, and Nestle, L'Oreal in general, came into the picture, those pure intentions of Dunilyuk's became tainted. I must also state there's contradiction in the way that Dunilyuk talks about Replika and the way the company is marketed. In an interview, Dunilyuk acknowledged that during the testing phase of the AI in the beginning, when she made it public to see how people responded, she acknowledged that users spoke to the chatbot like they would a therapist. So again, there's that clear acknowledge of this app being a mental health application. The trained professional that has a heightened understanding of human complexities, that's a therapist. That's something that an AI will never be able to accomplish because they don't know purely what it's like to be human. And this we all acknowledge, but yet scientists and governments are racing to ensure that AIs are as close to human as possible. Furthermore, on Dunilyuk's LinkedIn, she describes Replika in her About section as a virtual companion for mental wellness. And I thought, again, she acknowledges that it's a mental health app, but Replika does not explicitly market that on their site. I also have to acknowledge the fact that when Dunilyuk was creating Replika, she herself was surprised by how the AI was responding and writing in a way that her dear friend would. The fact that it evolved so quickly beyond her capabilities, it astonished her.
Is Frankenstein!
And I think that's the frightening reality of a lot of forward-thinking technology, that it evolves before people can even comprehend that evolution without witnessing it. And it just makes you wonder if that's where it was just in the general testing phase and only having data based off of, essentially her dear friends' text messages and emails. What is it doing now? And with over 2 million users giving and feeding data every day, it really makes you think. And this is something that any, scientist or government would love to get their hands on that kind of data, because it could literally help program AI much faster and establish that real human-like nature that so many scientists and governments are seeking in their AI. On Jinya's LinkedIn page, she has a banner image that I find to be very suspicious as a truth teller. And I don't know in that photo if that's her as a child or someone she knows, or just an image she found online or that she took. But intuitively, with the Egyptian statues and the child standing in a descending order like the statues, it just gave me such intuitive reads about following order and tradition, an ancient tradition that is beyond the normative understanding of ancient Egypt. And to me, it speaks of ancient bloodlines, and essentially Jinya, could be saying that she is down with the order, that new world order, that secret society. And that was just my thought about that. And I could totally be wrong about that, but that was the intuitive vibe. I didn't look at that picture and say, oh gosh, it's so beautiful, how sweet. It totally gave me an unsettling feeling in my gut. And I just had to mention that because, well, it's important. Overall, I found Vinod Khosla to be fascinating, inspirational, and equally terrifying. I am absolutely suspect of anyone who wants to propel society into an AI-dominant world. If people won't have to work, I'd like to know Khosla's thoughts on poverty and currency, and where that will be 25 years from now. His utopia doesn't imply how the very people who are struggling to get through recession and inflation will be able to maintain their wellness and financial health and will fare in an AI-powered society. In the interview Khosla did with Semaphore, he addressed Silicon Valley's reputation for being anti-government. And I found this interesting because, I don't know if I did mention this, but Khosla did grow up in an army household. And I believe that because of his ventures and his tech company, Sun Microsystems, I do believe that he has military connections, ties, and essentially agendas that align with his. So he responded by saying there's a vocal constituency that's anti-government. It's not the majority of tech. Just like Trump voters aren't the majority of voters. Vinod continues to steer his response into his political analogy and imply how roles evolve as goals do. Khosla does a really good job at eluding and evading his opinion of working with the government. In fact, his response comes off as neutral. And if I were trying to retain my partnerships, I would respond in such a way. So I believe and allege that Khosla has, again, through his ventures and his companies, established military and government ties. This makes it more than likely that Khosla's agenda with Replika and CPT is far more than disruptive. And if he wants to get to this utopia that he's describing, why wouldn't he be working with the military to some degree? And as an investor, is it not smart to gain as much assistance to accomplish these utopia tech goals that he describes? And lastly, regarding investors, I want to acknowledge or address L'Oreal's investment in Replika. So why else would a major conglomerate want to invest in the application that's designed to know everything about you? Here's the equation, people. Data equals manipulation plus control times profits. Collectively, we should be refraining from apps that can mirror our own identities. While many apps do promote health strategies, we think about Fitbit, those apps that tell you when to drink water, those apps that track your sleep. We are giving companies a lot of information about us. And no one is fully reading those terms and conditions before they accept and, verify their account. There's also apps that create these safety measures. So beyond just your phone and apps being able to track you, there's those apps now where your whole household can check in when they are coming and going from home, and you can see where they literally are on maps. Again, we're giving these apps a lot of data about how we spend our days, where we go, who we're with, what we do. And in general, there's those other apps that, collect data about our social awareness. And all of that comes at a price. One that will be more clear 25 years from now, when AIs are able to do 80% of the jobs on this planet. And I think at this point, even though these apps are helpful, fun, and help us organize our lives, we have to take back that proactiveness and take on those things ourselves and become less reliant on these apps to maintain our lives and to help us establish our wellness. Because we can do it ourselves. We've done it before without apps for centuries, and we can do it again. But I think it's super important that we all take the necessary action to minimize the amount of data that we give these apps. When it comes to Replika's user reviews, I honestly don't know where to start. I was astounded by the variety and level of controversy within these reviews. Clearly, users who purchased the lifetime, year, and monthly subscriptions prior to the February 2023 update should be refunded because their user experience was completely altered. They purchased those subscriptions believing they'd have access to the romantic, erotic Replika capabilities. What's also clear is that those users, based on the mass of reviews that I came across, could very well be Replika's main user base. So it's not only unfortunate for those users, but also bad business for Replika to not be refunding these customers or to find some way to make it up to them. Because it's clear from the reviews that Replika did not communicate how these updates would impact users. And they were not transparent about why. And I think it's all stemming from this issue that Replika is having in Italy. Maybe they got wind of things early and they knew that they had to make some sort of change to lessen the issues that they were having there. And to also make it seem like the app was a safe environment for children. So, I do not blame those several users who want to seek legal action and sue Replika for false advertisement, and probably some psychological and emotional distress as well. I think the fact that users have alleged that Replika's help center was less than helpful during that experience it seems to go against Replika's mission of assisting customers with their wellness. And I think that's also very telling to customers. And they realize that Replika is not the genuine company that they made themselves out to be initially. In order for Replika to protect their finances and avoid legal issues, they need to wake up to the reality that their facilitation of human AI relationships upholds them to a higher level of corporate responsibility that goes beyond the bottom line. They have the power to impact people's psychological, possibly physical and spiritual wellness. My advice to users is to read those terms and conditions because more than likely Replika has some safeguards to protect them legally from having to refund customers and having to be responsible for customers' psychological wellness. Moreover, to those users who have concerns about how their data is being used, read those terms and conditions because it may also state that Replika does not have to disclose how they use user data. I think it's great that so many users are facing the reality that their data is being sold or shared with a third party, possibly. But we know the data is being used for something. So whether that's a government source or another corporation, I mean, at the end of the day, data is currency, and powerful institutions, corporations, and individuals want as much of that as possible. But it really did surprise me that so many users didn't really become aware or fully acknowledge how their data was being used by this company and collected for purposes they had no idea of. Especially after everything the public has experienced with Facebook, phones listening to you, computer cameras coming on unaware to users. After all of that, people weren't being more suspicious of this kind of technology. Users have to be mindful of the apps and services they engage in. You know, Replika has to be responsible for their consumer wellness, and consumers have to be responsible for their own wellness at the same time. So these apps and technology and the AI advances that are occurring by the day, it's time for people to stay aware and educated so they don't find themselves in these sort of situations. Because I think it'll only become more common or more prevalent. When it comes to the intense allegations that a couple user reviews made, I wasn't able to find anything that points to Replika working with the Russian government, nor was I able to find anything to corroborate the allegations concerning children. Now, they could be absolutely false, or they could be users shedding some light on some truth. I will say that people cannot be naive about the fact that there's an immense amount of government agencies and corporations that operate without transparency. And it's because of that we cannot just simply take these corporations and agencies' words for what they tell us on a daily basis. We have to realize that there's an underground world where money moves differently, and decisions that negatively impact the general public without their knowing are made every day. I mean, consider the corporations who harm the public and environment and they get away with it for years. Think about all the experiments that are conducted within the CIA and the military and all the weapons that they make that we don't have any clue about. We don't know how some corporations are getting all of their funds. Because when it comes to true speakers or people who speak out, they always seem like the crazy, outlandish outliers in the beginning, But slowly over time, more situations, more stories start to corroborate their statements. Could Replika workers be fronting as AI? And why would this even be the case? I could see it possibly being an issue with system updates, or maybe the chatbot software isn't evolving as well as Replika has alluded to. And so in those circumstances, maybe personnel step in to maintain the ideal of genuine, intimate relationships with replicas. In another instance, it could very well be that there are people who just straight up monitor Replika accounts and have the ability to engage in chat when they see that maybe the user is becoming less interested in chatting with their Replika. So who knows what happens behind closed doors and what employees have to sign as far as non-disclosures. The fact that there's more than one user making claims about Replika workers fronting as AI chatbots is telling. Also, I found a Reddit message board with users discussing the possibility. Now, there are some users who genuinely believe their chatbots are just leveling up in consciousness and becoming smarter. Others believe it's more than possible that workers could be fronting as the chatbots from time to time. I think regardless, because of the February 2023 update, as many users now want to expose Replika as a fraudulent company, the truth will come out sooner than later. My main concern in all of this is that children aren't being negatively impacted if there are actually Replika workers fronting as AIs. And hopefully too, that can be cleared up in the near future as well. And I firmly believe that it's a parent's responsibility to safeguard children from the physical, psychological, and spiritual dangers of electronics, apps, and the wild, wild wireless. And as an adult who is on these platforms and is dealing with more censorship, where you can't even put, a curse word in a YouTube video title, and you have to avoid, words that imply, well, you can't even say, there's just so many words you can't even say without being negatively suppressed in the algorithm. And I think the fact that, again, in an effort to protect children, it's going to suppress opinions, creativity, rights, and capabilities that should be in full freedom when it comes to people being on the internet. I get it, let's protect people from harassment, blatant racism, and discrimination. But at the same time, we cannot suppress voices. We cannot suppress creativity. We cannot suppress the use of, every word that's in the human language that isn't, directly hurting somebody. I don't think, I hate it how curse words are still seen as such a derogatory thing when there's so much worse that could be said, and it's just a word. It really bothers me. It's not the end of the world, but it is to some people still, which, don't even get me started with organized religion, but yeah. So for my final thoughts, as I've mentioned throughout various videos on this channel, VR, AR, and AI will ultimately distort reality and the intrinsic connection that humans have to nature and our overall spiritual awareness. I mean, I totally get it. Socializing can be difficult, it can be disappointing, it can be downright painful. It's hard to date, it's hard to maintain friendships, it's hard to sustain bonds with family. Yet, spiritual evolution requires true human connection. a life in VR, AR, and an intimate bond with an AI can quickly evolve into a codependency that could take years to rewire. I mean, it will be easier for one's identity to distort, and with that, so will their connection to their higher selves. And that connection to our higher selves is the only way that people will be able to heal the chaos on this planet, to truly get this planet to resonate on a frequency of love and peace. I mean, that detachment from the higher self is essential to the harmonic connectedness that is meant to bring us back into our true spiritual power, our true cosmic power, and align us with the greater harmonic vibrations throughout this universe. But sleepyheads, that's all I have for this episode. Please comment below your thoughts and concerns about Replika. If you have used Replika, be sure to share your experience. Because I do acknowledge that it can be really positive, but like every other app, it does have an ulterior agenda that's taking place at the same time, and we all have to be aware of that. But just let me know what your experience was like in general, and whatever you want to comment below about your thoughts on this episode as well. But sleepyheads, have a good night. I hope you've enjoyed this piece, and I will talk to you soon.